I welcome everybody once again to another session of our founder series at the Kunle Hassan Eye Foundation Academy. As everybody might know, the Kunle Hassan Eye Foundation Academy is part of the Eye Foundation Hospital Group, which was founded with this vision to be the center of academic excellence in ophthalmic care, and with a mission to develop leaders and international best practice in eye care through training, research, and educational excellence. And the Founder Series is one of our knowledge series currently going on under the theme of leadership and influence. We are on the 13th lecture in the series, and we're glad to have one of our non-executive directors as the speaker on this occasion. Dr. Harriman will do an introduction shortly. I'll just run through the house rules, which is just as well as the agenda. We're starting at 12:35, which I'm giving the welcome. Shortly, Dr. Harriman, the Executive Director of Kunle Hassan Eye Foundation Academy, which we know as KEFA, will do a brief introduction of Dr. Kiari. Following that, we'll have a presentation from Dr. Kiari, and after that, we'll have an interactive session. We would normally ask people to put their questions in the comment box, but I think lately we've also experimented with having people ask their questions to make it a bit more interactive. So I think we'll be able to do that as well. Nevertheless, people are welcome to put their questions, feedback, and comments in the chat box, and it will be picked up during the interactive session. After that, we will have the closing remarks, and we'll hopefully close. I'm looking forward to an exciting session today. In terms of house rules, we'll normally ask that everybody keep their microphone muted, except the speaker, of course. And as much as possible as well, we'd like everybody to keep their video off so that we can focus on the presentation as well as the speaker. Now I will call on Dr. Harriman to do a brief introduction of the speaker, and we can get on with today's session. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Yemi, and thank you very much, everyone who's joined so far. Good afternoon. Looking forward to today's lecture given by Dr. Fatima Kiari, who is a consultant ophthalmologist and the clinical glaucoma lead at the University of Abuja Teaching Hospital. She's the director of the Institute for Advanced Medical Research and Training, AMRAT, the College of Health Sciences, University of Abuja. She's also an associate professor at the London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine. She's the co-chair for International Agency for Prevention of Blindness, the IAPB Africa, and the chair for the Glaucoma Society of Nigeria, the Glaucoma Subspecialty Group of the Ophthalmological Society of Nigeria. She is a fellow of the Nigerian Academy of Medicine. Fatima exploits academic knowledge beyond academia and has participated in international policy forums. She was the lead consultant for the Nigerian National Eye Health Policy 2019, a member of the editorial committee of WHO's The World Report on Vision 2019, and a co-author of the Lancet Commission on Global Eye Health. She was also the lead author of the Commonwealth Policy Brief on the Sustainable Control of Avoidable Blindness 2017, and a Vision for the Commonwealth, Eye Health in the Commonwealth Progress Report 2018 to 2020, which are in the suite of documents that informs policy decisions at CHOGM. She is also a non-executive director of KEFA. Her topic today is AGIVE, which stands for Identity, Growth, Impact, Voice, Engagement. So, Dr. Kiari, you're welcome this afternoon, and we are eager to understand what actually AGIVE means. You're welcome.
Thank you very much, Dr. Harriman. Hello, everyone. Welcome to this talk I give as part of the Founders Series on the theme Leadership and Influence. My name is Fatima Kyari. I'm an ophthalmologist by profession. I also teach, conduct research, and advocate for better healthcare, especially eye healthcare in Nigeria, in Africa, in the Commonwealth countries, and globally. I'm really excited to share this talk with you on identity, growth, impact, voice, and engagement as key ingredients of leadership and influence, which I term I give. I must deeply appreciate this invitation by the Kunle Hassan Eye Foundation Academy, of which I'm also a member of the board. I am going to share my screen now. I hope it works. Is it sharing?
Yes, it's on. It's on. Great.
Yes.
Okay, and it's only the slides that is showing.
Yes.
Yeah, it's only the slide. Yes, we have
okay, because it's really hard for me to tell from here. It's just taking everything up. Okay. So before I go on, as usual, I'd like to just put away the acknowledgement, the institutions, as well as the ones you see at the bottom left of the screen. I'd like to acknowledge other institutions and organizations that I'm affiliated with. And please forgive me if I have only selected this few. We'll talk about identity first. Identity focuses on what makes you, you. What makes you, you? What are your values, your background, and influences? Do you value your identity? How does identity impact your leadership in positive ways? And what do you bring to your leadership style? And what do others see in you that looks like leadership? So I'm talking about leadership today because the theme we're discussing is leadership and influence. And when we look at growth, we will explore aspects that you recognize as transformational change. Do you have a fixed mindset or a growth mindset? And in impact, what does it mean to be at the receiving end of you? What do you offer? What's your rapport, your status, your energy? What do you bring to the table? Would you flex your communication style to have a greater impact on all those around you? And when we talk about voice, it is about being clearer and on what it means to have your voice. How might you align with your institutional values to influence growth and achieving targets? And in engagement, which is the E of the I give, it highlights the essence of engaging people towards achieving a shared mission, a purpose, and the why. So really, that is what my term I give is about: identity, growth, impact, voice, and engagement. Of course, there are many definitions of a leader, you know that. I mean, the last Founder Series, we also discussed something about leadership, and he gave us his perspective of leadership, and there are many different perspectives. I have different perspectives, but today, because of what I do in my role as a teacher, I'll take this perspective that you see. A leader is one who cares about their younger ones' success, who cares about raising them, teaching them skills, disciplining them when necessary, and help them build their self-confidence so that they can go on to achieve more than you could ever imagine achieving for yourself. Now that's leadership. You want someone to surpass your abilities. And to be honest, you know, a leader does not really need a position of authority to be a leader. So you could lead at any point. You know, if you're the chief resident, if you're running the clinic, you know, anything, at any point, you could be the leader. And in discussing influence, this pertains to either internal or external influence. By internal, I mean your co-workers, people in your team, or your subordinates, your clients, your patients. And for external influence, we think about influencing policymakers, planners, and, you know, of people in authority. This could even be, for example, the chief medical director of your hospital, or the vice chancellor of your university, or even the minister for health. Ask yourself, what do you influence? What do you want to influence? Okay, now, before I carry on, all that was actually just introduction. Before I carry on, I'd like to ask you, or would like you to ask yourself a few questions. Who are you? Next time a person rudely asks you, who do you even think you are? Truly, you know, think about it. Who are you? Who am I really? What's important for others to know about you? What has influenced your development so far? What is your unique identity as a leader? Are you willing to stand up and be that leader? Or who do you need to be? So that is the question I'd like you to ask yourselves. Well, let me ask myself that question. Who am I and what are my influences? So often I get younger people early in their professional careers or just finishing school get in touch with me and asking me how I did it. As they see me as successful, they want to know how I did it and what advice I can give them. I actually do my best to talk to them, but I laugh in my mind because the fact is I have no idea how I got here and I don't see myself the way they see me, you know. But much of what I did or do was not because I had a goal in mind. Over the years, I have had many influences. Sometimes, you know, it starts as a game when you start to think about who you are. Those of you that are on Facebook, I hardly go on Facebook these days, but sometimes I go on and you have these games that you play and they say choose a number or choose a color and it comes up with amazing things, you know, and they make you think that, yeah, that's you. And I kind of also believe that, well, that's me sometimes, you know. So that is now, you know, that tells you that people want to identify who you are. So you begin to think about your influences. And in my influences, my first school was my home, like most of you. My home was a one-stop shop for many of my cousins, my parents, friends, children. We were many. My mother looked after so many of us. And that was the first lesson. We included everyone in whatever we do. I don't really think my parents could share with me the mechanics of career success, but they ingrained in us early on the core values of kindness, respect, and dignity of work. Being a child of a soldier, you know how they are in the military. So dignity of work was very important. And being a spouse of a military person also, I couldn't escape that. So also my education, my residency training, my postgraduate studies. And during my residency training, I had Professor Abiose who made us do outreach eye care, cataract surgical services. You know, would go overnight, do the surgeries, come back. That also had influence in me. And when I completed my residency training, I applied for a master's degree at the London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine. Because the course was about community eye care and work outside the hospital, you know, London School was the best place to go to. And I was lucky because I got a scholarship to study at this prestigious university. Or was it luck? So as you have Professor James Standifer here, known to most of you of blessed memory, he came to teach senior doctors at a glaucoma workshop at my hospital. I was a junior resident at the time. And you know, at that time we would just assist. We were not really participating in the course. But I was asked to demonstrate how we performed trabeculectomy. So despite all the eyes and attention on the operating table, I did a flawless trabeculectomy and he was amazed, or he was pleased. I was also asked to demonstrate the diode laser trabeculoplasty to Professor Standifer at the time. So when he was leaving after the 2-week course, he handed over to me, you know, the gonioscopy, that 4-mirror non-flange gonioscopy. First time I was seeing it then, and that's what I've been using since then. And then the laser gonio lens. So he gave it to our department and gave it through me. Fast forward that 2002 when I applied for my master's. There was one Dr. John Cheatham, an American doctor. He gave scholarship to the London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine, just one scholarship. And at the end of the assessment, they said they're going to consider one Fatima Kyari from Nigeria for that scholarship. And John Cheatham had to verify who Fatima was and whether his money could go to her. Guess who he called? He called his American ophthalmologist friend who had been to Nigeria, and that was Professor James Standifer. So the rest is history, and you can see how it happened. That was several years later. So here you see my influences also include my professional trainers. I thank people like Professor Mahmoud, Dr. Apiafi, Dr. Adejo, Dr. Iheanacho. You know, they're my seniors. Their selfless clinical training and for giving me opportunities I had in that hospital, for laying me on that table that morning to do that trabeculectomy, you know, and that took me to a scholarship in London. Now, my studies at LSHTM defined the trajectory of my career, from participating as a field worker in Nigeria National Survey on Blindness and Low Vision to my PhD studies and engagement in global eye health, and as a member of a 6-man senior leadership team at the International Center for Eye Health. So I personally see the ICH as a safe, respectful, and supportive environment. And I feel engaged and mentored actually in the LSHTM. Without these, I probably would not have been in the position that I am in that school. As I know, there are very few Black women in senior academic medical positions in England. And in Nigeria, the issues may not be of color, but of ethnicity and religion. But in both countries, you know, being a woman has a seeming advantage. And as I straddle across these various disadvantage factors, you know, a Black woman in senior academic position in predominantly white senior level at LSHTM, and then being that, I hate to say it, but you know, being that Hausa Muslim woman, some people describe me as that, even though I'm not Hausa from the north, but I'm from the north, so they generally describe everyone from the north as that Hausa, you know, and then woman. But I refuse to be defined by those stereotypes, and I refuse to be defined by people that would stereotype me in that way. I'm sorry I don't intend to bore you with my bio really, you know, but my aim is not to showcase my work more than others, but to actually contextualize how to harness similar attributes that you have by shedding a little bit light on my own. Let your identity, your brand, who you are, be defined by your own values, your personal qualities, your professional proficiency, your competence, your skills, your credibility and integrity. Don't allow others to define who you are. Be an authority in your area of interest. Be known for good things. You remember I told you about scholarships. Scholarships do not mean you're unable to afford. It means you are selected. It also means that you are in a support network. those who support your education will also like to see you rise in your career, so they'll aid your trajectory. And when you want to define yourself, you look at all these things that I have there. What is your upbringing, your family beliefs, your values, your profession, as I mentioned before. Now let's talk about growth. Growth is about working towards the future of our imagination, isn't it? The future is just our imagination. The future really doesn't exist. I mean, I don't mean that there's no future, but what I mean is that it doesn't exist yet. It's not there yet. We're not there yet. But it can feel like something we need to get hold of, but it's really not there. And in reality, it's not there. So, but if we see opportunities, we take them. Or alternatively, if we see risks that we need to avoid, we should avoid them. We also need to think about how we can become part of those who are shaping the ship in a tidal wave. And if we're growing, we're always going to be out of our comfort zone, says John Maxwell. So, okay. Am I back now?
Not quite. I think slide is not back.
Am I back? I felt I was off for a bit.
You're still on, but your slide has gone off.
Okay, I'll just turn it off and share it again.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's back on now. Great.
Oops. Just take it away from that screen. Okay. Is the slide looking okay now? Yeah.
Yes.
So I was talking about growth. You have to go out of your comfort zone if we need to grow. It's gone off again. What's happening?
But we still have it on.
Zayan. Zayan.
Sorry, if you're not a speaker, do you mind turning your video off, please? Thank you. I think Mr. Silas, you have your video on. If you don't mind turning it off. Thank you.
Hello.
Hello. Hello, Dr. Carey. Yes.
Yeah, my apology. I think. Okay.
Yeah, it's back on now.
Okay, I'm so sorry. This isn't meant to be like this. Okay. Yeah. So we're still at growth, and as John Maxwell said, you have to go out of your comfort zone for growth to occur. And I mean, I always, I think this is one of my what do you call it? Change period, the Nigeria survey. And what makes us human is our ability to get out of our comfort zone for the sake of others, reaching out where there are no roads. And so growth is imperative for transformation. Our needs, we have to have a growth mindset to grow. Even if you're not in a position of authority, be a good follower, be ready to learn, lifelong learning, and self-improvement, and take advantage of disruptive technology. I say lifelong learning because even the best of leaders, you know, the ones we hear about, they have continued to have lifelong learning. They're never short of learning. Be up to date and have a general awareness of new technology in this rapidly changing world. I have to apologize to the non-medics for putting this gory photo here. At that time, Dr. Ologunso and I decided to operate on this child. We didn't have CT scans or MRIs. We just had plain X-rays to feed our imagination as to what was happening behind this fungating mass. And then the boldness. You know, surgeons, they say surgeons must be bold. So we went ahead, and this was what we saw behind the mass. It's really the doctors who have the courage to say, I'm going to do it differently, that produce the change. So here I'm going to give you an example of one of my colleagues, Professor Andrew Bastores. He's someone I work with. I have keenly followed the transformational change that he and his team at Peak brought to eye care service. He also did a survey, you know, a full-blown survey in Kenya, taking all the equipment from place to place in a van. But at some point, he thought about leveraging on disruptive technology. So this is what they did. And they now have this handheld, you know, device, their software, the program design and data intelligence platform help health services become more efficient, more equitable, and more effective. The result? Better vision and eye health for millions of people worldwide who need it. I'll encourage you to read more about this on peakvision.org. It is a story of courage, determination, and vision. We find all these at all levels, you know, and we should recognize it no matter what level. So I'm talking here about this high-valuing disruptive technology, but even at a lower level, we find stories of courage, and we should acknowledge them. What will your contribution towards advancing eye health be? Have you thought about that? Now, talking about impact. Technology may make things easier, but they do not offer the whole solution. People do. Who needs to know about you, and how do you show up? To make that impact, shouldn't you be thinking about stop doing behaviors which don't help you? Start doing new behaviors you'd like to adopt. Continue doing what you do well. And then to have an identity to grow, to make an impact, you need to have a focus, a purpose, because that is what links you from knowing what to stop, knowing what to start doing, and knowing what to continue doing. The link is the purpose. I believe that whatever you do, the purpose has to be fundamental. And let that be positive towards what you are influencing. What is your purpose? Okay, I had to put this slide because, I mean, it's not every day you see yourself in the picture of a Bill Gates tweet, you know? So, but more seriously with that, it just got me to remember and articulate my purpose. So that day I got to see, when I saw Bill Gates, Aliko, the A, B, and C's. So it's Aliko, Bill, and Christopher, who is of Microsoft. So they are the ABCs. And when I saw them, it was a high level of the mind and philanthropy, the dynamics of public and private interface for disability elimination and disease eradication. They were talking about polio and reaching the last mile. So it was about reaching the last mile at the Lake Chad, despite the insurgency. But they had a simple sheet of systems, and that was to locate, to reach, to act, and to set to a time frame, all working together. I mean, it was exciting for me because when I was in university, we had this Kick Polio Out campaign with the Rotary Club and everything, and we donated, we engaged. And then several years later, maybe this is 20-something years later, you're still talking about the last mile, and then it happened. So you have to think about people, you have to think about how you can engage them. In my career, I sometimes felt finding myself in the right path and place was an easy thing because it just felt like it just flowed. But one day I was asked a question that helped me to articulate my purpose. It was actually during the interview for the Nigeria survey again. The question for the interview panel was, why are you here? And everyone knew that we would be getting out of our comfort zones. You know, it was a 30-month survey. Can we survive it? It was travel in extraneous circumstances. So what is your purpose? And then I said to myself, wow, what a question. I never really thought about that. Have you thought about your purpose? I just thought I wanted to do a survey. I heard about a survey, it was happening, I wanted to go. Or maybe perhaps write up journal articles. But then I wasn't even in the university at the time, so to publish was not my priority. Zayan? Why is it doing this? Okay, I'm back again. I'm sorry it keeps happening like that. Okay, am I back?
Yes, you are on the impact slide, yes.
Okay. So then I thought, you know what? I really want to be a bridge between the voiceless blind people and those who have the ability or the responsibility to do something to prevent, treat, or rehabilitate people who have lost their vision or are losing their vision. So here I was. These are the policy makers, the people with the tools, the people that could provide the service. And then here are the blind people. They're tucked away in rural areas. They don't have a voice. So I said, you know what? This is the problem we have, and we need to find solutions. And so obtaining those data, presenting them, informing, and making a case was a purpose. Finding evidence, the information to improve eye care services worked as my purpose. And that is what has kept me going through the survey and even beyond. So what is your purpose and mission, and why? In whatever it is, make people first. Have the courage to do the right thing rather than the expedient thing. It doesn't mean you should go for the easy things because it's easy. Do the right thing. Embrace an infinite mindset. It's about thinking way beyond any time frame. It's not something about, I have to do it now and that's it. So a purpose is something that you set out to achieve collectively. That means you either join a ready-made group that aligns with your purpose or have to aggregate everybody's capabilities to achieve a single purpose, taking into account that they have distinct authorities and responsibilities. So you have these people with different common beliefs and values. How do you bring them together? How do you make their interests same as yours? And this may not happen just at the beginning, but brought in alignment through compassionate communication. You have to include your emotions, using information using ICT tools that we have. You harness and combine data, develop a clean picture of what you really want them to agree. Okay, so now I'll go back a little bit to my influences again. My dad had a large collection of books. Sometimes I would just read the titles because the books were so many, and I really wasn't much of a reader. I mean, I read my medical books, but not, you know, books off the shelf just like that. So I would just read the titles, and sometimes my siblings and I would do that I Spy with my little eye. What book do I see, you know? And we would read the title, and the others all have to now go through book by book to find the title that was read out. So one of the books I found on the shelf one day was Getting to Yes. And because it was a small book, I was keen to read it, and I read it. And it's talked about how to make people say yes, and it has helped me, and how do I say yes and do what I set out to do. I really didn't have much thinking about this book until, you know, when I was preparing for this talk, and I decided to search for the book, and I found it. I was amazed to find out that the book I read that time was the 1981 first edition, and there has been subsequent revisions since then, and the authors Roger Fisher, William Ury, they have become so famous. They're Harvard, you know, on the Harvard negotiation project and all that. But for me, that was a memory, you know. And so here are the things that, some of the lessons that we learned from the book. Separate the people from the problem. Never join issues. You know, you might have an issue with someone, but don't take it personal. Go for what you want. Go for how that person can interact with you on a particular purpose, you know, and then focus on interests, not positions. Like the last talk we had by Michael Koko, I think he mentioned, you don't bother about your position if what you are after is your calling. So focus on your interests. And sometimes when talking to my glaucoma patients, I ensure that they understand that my interest is the same as theirs, to conserve the vision they have, you know, conserve the vision that they have, rather than the flip side, which is to slow down progression of blindness. So I'm talking here positive rather than negative. And then number 3, learn to manage options. Emotions, because some people can get angry when you talk to them. Why are you telling me this? You know, so learn to manage emotions, express appreciation when someone does good, acknowledge, and put a positive spin on your message. Communicating in positive ways, just like I told you now with the glaucoma patient. Let's look at the positive aspect. You have 50% of your vision, would like to keep it. Not you have lost 50% of your vision, we want to stop the other from getting there. And also, you know, about criticizing and blaming people. Never play the blame game. Then escape the cycle of action and reaction. Now, when I was asked to write the Commonwealth Progress Report on Vision 2018 to 2020, it was a period of intervention, and we wanted to see what the differences were between 2018, when the Commonwealth heads of government pledged to make quality eye care affordable and accessible. That was 2018 during their meeting in London. I sat down to think, what is really going on? What are the new things that have happened since then? And to come to realize that so much work had been done in the last 2 to 5 years than I had seen in the previous 15 years of my eye health career, or maybe because I delved in more to find out what had been done, or maybe actually work had actually been done. So you can see the statistics about trachoma. Trachoma was getting down because one of the main things was to eradicate trachoma, to eliminate trachoma as a public health problem. In 2018, Ghana became the first Commonwealth country to be validated by the WHO as having eliminated trachoma as a public health problem. Nigeria reduced its trachoma problem by 2/3 because by 2020 they had reduced by 20 million people at risk to 6.3 million people. Malawi is also reaching thresholds. In fact, sometime this year they will be validated as having eradicated trachoma. And Pakistan is also doing, mass drug administration. Australia is also seeking to eliminate by this year. And Vanuatu, which is another Commonwealth country, have also submitted an elimination for trachoma. So a lot was going on. And I thought I needed to portray that in a positive, celebratory way. Don't you think so? There was a lot more school eye health, the training that we did. Nigeria had subspecialist training in 120 or so subspecialists that were trained in ophthalmology under the Commonwealth Eye Health Consortium. 65, a bit over half are actually Nigerians. And with the feedback from stakeholders, a vision for the Commonwealth, it was quite encouraging. They loved the positive, celebratory way that we presented that report. And the recommendations were fantastic. I mean, the recommendation explored areas of common interest. That's the eye care, within the eye care world, and the heads of government. So, of course, I didn't formulate the recommendations by myself. It was a collective thing. It was a teamwork. It was based on the report showing what had been done so far and the significant progress that had been achieved in trachoma, and the different intensive efforts from stakeholders and care providers in the countries. So it's okay, that was why we went positive. I mean, it's okay to know that there's a problem that you want to solve or what your challenges are, but do not focus on the problem, focus on the purpose. If you're talking about the problem and how difficult it is, then your energy will just go into the problem. You'll be losing energy. Instead, if you decide to concentrate on where you want to be, where you ask yourself, where do I want to be? Then think about where you are and potentially just go higher. How can I get there? Straight away, you are switching your attention from energy draining problem. Maybe you have some issues with a colleague or something. That will become too energy draining. Remove your focus from there and focus on your purpose. So just say, I'm refusing. It's simple. I'm making a decision. I'm a person. I'm going to invest my energy in finding solutions. And that is the whole idea of having a purpose. Now let's talk about voice. So we've talked about identity, growth, impact. Now let's talk about voice, the V in the give. Having a voice is really important in order to solve problems and develop leadership. How might you flex your communication style to have greater impact on all those around you? I mean, here it was laughter. I'm not talking about that, but how do you speak up, both in content and manner of communication? It also means that using unique leadership voices and helping navigate complex organizational arenas are very important. So to do this one, you need credibility, commitment, and confidence. Now think about it. When talking, giving a presentation, I know some of you are very good at giving presentations, some of us are still learning. You try to pause to draw in the audience. If you talk too fast, they may lose you. You pause to talk into the audience. And then sometimes as you pause, somebody is already thinking ahead of you. You allow the listeners to get curious. Then take a slow pace. Do not give too much information or use too long sentences. And then use a pitch. You go high, you go low, depending on what you're talking about. And then give power. Be knowledgeable in what you're saying. and land your sentences, so that it can be absorbed by that person. Make your emphasis and remember the inflections. So how can you tell a great story to influence people and to draw people into your, environment? Think about the different ways you might introduce yourself. We talked about identity. Then depending on circumstances and how you want or need them to perceive you, don't let them make up their minds about you without you giving them what they need to know about you. When thinking about identity at work, I find that it helps, two approaches. Of course, we know the CV approach. You talk about the qualifications, the experience, the skills, the ambition, what people at work will understand in a way that it tells them something about your competence, what you have done. But then there's also that more personal internal stuff, the essence of you, the things that make you you and no one else. The qualities and beliefs that you carry wherever you go. Some people will say, I know Ayo Harriman. This is who she is. This is what she can do. I know Fatima. This is who she is. This is what she can do. So people will carry that information wherever they go. When you think about your identity at work, you may need to combine and communicate these two sides, the CV side and the personal side, or just the relevant things that they need to know. I know that I have a very senior colleague, which a few years ago, as I told you, she used to say your people, your people, referring of course to people of northern Nigerian extraction. But that person doesn't do that anymore because they have come to know who I am and have stopped defining me as where I come from, So it takes time sometimes, but you also have to acknowledge some of these nuances. Well, in communicating your story, do you have an elevator pitch? Do you know what an elevator pitch is? Okay, for example, you're getting into the lift and someone that is influential in your career or something, or you need to know, you bump into one of your targets, you bump into that person, and the person, you get into the elevator together, and you know how the elevator is, 30 seconds, you've all parted. So how can, in that 30 seconds, how can you convince that person to have a conversation with you subsequently? Do you just bring out your card and dish it out? Or do you just say who you are and start mumbling, oh, I wasn't expecting? So have an elevator pitch in your palm, 30 seconds. What are you going to say about what you do, the work that you do, so that you can get what you want? So let's try this. There's a story spine. Storytelling is very well recognized as an important leadership technique, but it doesn't come naturally to everyone. We're still learning. One technique used for storytelling is the improvisational theater, known as the story spine. So I'll have a go at this. You can have a go as well. I'm just thinking, once upon a time, there was a dreadful blinding eye condition. It affected millions of people around the globe and was the first leading cause of irreversible vision loss and blindness. In Nigeria, 1 in 20 people aged 40 years and above is affected by glaucoma, and millions more of younger people. Every day, patients with this disease suffer with poor quality of life, an increased risk of falls, depression, loss of economic productivity, because they are losing vision. Existing therapeutic approaches reduce the progression of vision loss, but a significant unmet need remains to improve care for glaucoma patients. Until one day, a new method of laser treatment was investigated in clinical trials. It was different to the other treatments, and the machine to deliver it was quite expensive. Against the odds, it had good acceptability in African glaucoma patient populations. Because of that, The laser was made available in every single eye unit to treat the terrible condition glaucoma. Further benefits were revealed in post hoc analysis and phase 4 studies, until finally, data from clinical trials and real-world studies support the benefits of this new treatment for patients, leading experts to support its use, and it is incorporated into global glaucoma care guidelines under universal health coverage. And every day after that, people with glaucoma got treated early before vision loss occurred, and then glaucoma blindness became a thing of the past. Yes, I know you'll say wishful thinking, but that is the story I want to tell. Now, let's talk about the E, which is the last letter on the I give, the engagement. How do you create change rather than maintain stability? You know, we need change constantly, but change has to be good. But if you're just calm and you want to maintain stability, then you're not changing the spiral, you're not expanding the spiral, and which is what we need to do. In what capacity do you engage people? This could be professionally or socially. And at this point, let me digress a little bit. As the director of the Institute for Advanced Medical Research and Training at the University of Abuja, I would like to tell you some of the work that we do, which is part of the engagement that I'm trying to describe. So we have ongoing research, which include these. You know, my other colleague, who is the co-director, is cardiovascular, very proficient researcher in cardiovascular medicine. And so we have researchers in cardiovascular medicine, and we decided that all the research that we're going to do at the Institute should have an effect on practice or planning. It has to be translational or policy. So that's why you can see we're talking about hypertension in Nigeria, we're talking about salt intake, and there are so many collaborators in that. Early diagnosis of glaucoma, so that we can tell that story in a few years' time, and analyzing the performance of automated software in the identification of malaria retinopathy in digital retinal images of cerebral malaria patients. These are children with severe malaria. And then the Young Africa Works disability inclusion in education and employment research. And some of the training that we do include the setting, the cardiovascular research training with mentorship, and simulation-based ophthalmic surgical training lab, which is being set up in the next couple of months. We will have it already. So this is about leadership, right? Last year I took a course. For the first time, actually, I took a course on leadership. I'm Aurora, and I'd like to share with you one of the things I took away from that course. Here is a real toolbox to support your leadership development and growth. So real. The R is perfecting the art of reflection. Here I have a lady sitting on the balcony. You sit on the balcony and think, what do you really want? What are the key strengths that I need to develop? What are the blind spots that I need to attend to? And how will I know I'm getting better at what I do? So what are the values most important to you? I say sitting on the balcony because you want to be free. You want to free yourself from the confines of the four walls. You know, sometimes yes, you lie down on your bed and look up in the ceiling, but there's a block there. But if you sit on the balcony, it's out. You know, it's the vast, never-ending scene. So it lets you see as far as the eyes can see. You know, and then the E in the leadership is engaging people. We talked about engaging people just now. It's not just about you doing something yourself. it's also about trying to, find people that are even better than me, and so continue to practice skills of engaging people so that you can make people do better things than you do. And then the A, of course, is take action. You have to understand the requirement of you as a leader and then take action. Action could be doing something yourself or getting the right people again to align with you and take that action for the benefit of all. Then the L is looking beyond today and tomorrow, leaving a legacy. A leader has to have foresight. Think 5 to 10 years, 50 years. I don't want to make an example of the platform that I'm on now, but this series that we're even discussing is a kind of leaving a legacy. When the originator started this talk, I thought to myself, wow, this is somebody who is sharing, their journey with others because they want people to do better and then leave a legacy. So a leader should not fear starting something that will not end now, but will endure even after they are gone. What happens when I'm no longer here? What do I leave behind? That is the question you should be asking yourself. So that is the real reflection, engage, action, and legacy, looking beyond today and tomorrow. In conclusion, I have discussed leadership and influence within the concepts of identity, growth, impact, voice, and engagement, and I have highlighted the real toolbox. Once again, my aim is not to showcase my work more than others, but to contextualize how to harness your similar attributes, the ones that you have, by shedding light on my own experiences. Now, will you stop waiting to stand up and be that leader? Actually, the word stand up here is metaphorical. You don't really have to physically stand up, but do stand up. Be that leader. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you very much, Fatima. Thank you. We thought we knew something about leadership and influence, but this is looking at it from another perspective. I'm going to open the floor for questions. I'm sure we listened. She didn't speak too fast, so I don't believe there is much summary I have to do because everything she said was quite clear. But let's engage, let's ask questions, let's make comments. So do we have any questions? You can put up your hands if you have anything to say. And one thing while we're waiting for people to respond, one thing I learned here is not just communicating but engaging, which Dr. Fatima did. She actually engaged us in her topic today. She actually connected with us. And it's very difficult asking ourselves questions, trying to identify who we are. But yes, we need to spend that time. We need to spend that time identifying who we are, asking ourselves those deep, uncomfortable questions.
I hope I did not confuse people by talking, so I'm not getting any questions.
Okay, we'll start with Dr. Hassan. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, Dr. Harriman. Dr. Fatima, Thank you very much for your very interesting topic. I think you bring value to it in the sense that you made us to really assess ourselves and bring the best out of our actions and link it with our thinking, which is very important at this stage of our development. Sometimes our greatest weakness is underestimating ourselves. So I really thank you for giving that example, a life example, and I think it will inspire more generation to build the confidence to bring the best out of them. So I really thank you for taking this opportunity and enriching our vision and our dream. I always admire you for your courage. You know, you always a goal getter and fix your mind on things without looking at the influence of people around you. And that's the most important, to maintain a focus and to see through with a determined mind. Thank you for sharing this with us.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir.
Okay, there's a question here. Okay, there are some comments. Dr. Ajayo says, excellent presentation. And I must say the beauty are the projects you have successfully implemented. Good work. Dr. David Obonaya has a question here. He says, thank you so much, Ma. Yemi, I think you may have to take over this part, if you don't mind.
All right, it's okay.
Scroll up.
Okay, so there's a comment and some question from Dr. David Obonaya. I'll just go through it. Thank you so much, Ma, for the lecture. How can one as a leader respond when our patients respond more towards the negative than positive aspect of communication? Example, in your example, counseling the glaucoma patient, how do you approach this when patients seem to be spurred to action when they are told how much vision they have lost and how much is still left? Thank you.
Yes, you know, we have always lived on a should I say life of threat. You know, we always feel that threatening is what spurs people into action. It's always the thought that if I tell the person the threat that the person has, he will spur into action. You know, even those smoking adverts where they show lungs have gone brown or burnt, you know, and people continue smoking, but they use that threat to make people stop. So in glaucoma, we also want to use that threat so that we will get the patients to do more, to be more compliant with their medication. But sometimes it works negatively, you know. It becomes too scary, they become too afraid and despondent, and then instead of getting them to do more to get treated, they kind of lose hope. So what you want to do is give hope. And in terms of counseling, yes, we're all still learning again, as I say, but in one of the recent journals of community eye health, there's a section on counseling. I think it would be worthwhile having a look at it and then see how you can engage patients, and also section on motivational interviewing as a form of counseling. And we're also developing an online course of glaucoma. When it comes, there's a section that also discusses counseling very deeply. So I think I will just suggest that you continue to learn these things so that we can know how to approach patients more informatively and also successfully.
Thank you for that. There's just a comment here, someone who's just sharing the feedback about what they've taken, their takeaway. Mr. Femi Ibrahim says, my learning is be positive. Counsel glaucoma patient, we want to keep the 50% even if you have. So I think the positive take you had on it, I think is what the person is taking away. Then there's a comment also from Ajayi Obiakunda. You have futuristic views which drive change, the growth mindset. Excellent. I would just take a few points. I think you've given us a space into your own personal context. So I would like to jump on that if that's okay. Just because obviously you've shared this topic from your experience and your own sort of life story, if I can put it that way. So I have two questions. The first one is when you talk about reflection, I think reflection is meant to make you kind of think and get a sort of to aspire towards something and just look at who you are, where you've been, and try to also see what exactly do you have. And I think Dr. Hassan made a comment there that we tend to underestimate ourselves. How have you been able to take your reflection to get your imagination to a level where the strides are greater? I don't know if if it makes sense. It's just like how do people reflect in terms of looking at their aspiration and in a way that is not limited based on who they think they are?
Yeah, so I guess the thing is you have to think about what you want. Again, I always go back to the purpose. You always go back to the purpose. Think of what you really want, what you hope to achieve. Who are the players with you on that journey? And what are you doing that is helpful? As I said, what are you doing that is helpful? What are you doing that is not needed, that you should stop doing? When you think about all those things, and how do you get better at what you do? So apart from reflecting inwards, you also need feedback to what you're doing like that. So you have to have an open mind. And that's why having a peer group is quite important. For example, we have meetings every 2 weeks, and we talk about what we have done or what we do. And that is kind of a reflection. So if you're in a research community, that is what you always do, because you want to know what are the strengths that you need to keep developing and what are the blind spots that you need to sit down and relax, to stop doing or to think about. And the first thing, and another thing is you have to be compassionate, and you have to be in that learning mode all the time. If you take yourself as if you are too big to learn, then you don't have the chance to reflect. So that's just the reflection aspect of what I think should be.
Thank you very much. And then my second question, and I'll take one more question that's on the chat, is also when you talk about growth and just getting to transformational change. And I kind of try to relate, obviously, the interplay in terms of getting things done on the ground. So, for example, you have the public sector, you have the private sector, which I think from your experience, you've straddled and you've been able to balance and engage, promote engagement between those. And I think there are some people who have different views in terms of seeing how the private sector should not engage with the public sector because maybe they don't feel there's alignment. So if you can share some thoughts with us on how you see that synergy leading to, because I believe that transformational change is going to come through a great collaboration, because there's strength from the public sector where you talk about compassion, you talk about equity and all of that, which the public sector tends to preach, maybe not necessarily practice. And then you talk about efficiencies and getting things done very well, which the private sector preaches. But again, there's the dynamics of profit and all of that. So in your experience, if you can just tell us how you see that working together, so that people who feel that they belong to either can see that there's actually a power in working together.
Well, I don't belong to both actually, but I think perhaps with my interaction with my big brother and mentor, Dr. Kunle Hassan, all the time, and some of my colleagues at I Foundation, I can see a balance between the two. And sometimes I keep biting my finger, why didn't I go into private practice? Because it gives you the opportunity to actually practice what you want. But But then again, there has to be a balance, because working in public, whether we like it or not, it reaches more people. But as you said, is it efficient? Is it really effective? So it takes time. And one of the things we have to do is just, be patient. But it takes time, and we're hoping that one day the change will come, that it will happen, or the little that is happening, we continue to do that. And there is not like a big divide. There's no clear line, that says this must be private, this must be public. You have, effectively combined the two, offer service for the public while, maintaining that prominence in the private sector. So it's really not something that I can readily answer, but I think they both need each other to grow. And even recently, a few months ago, we were discussing with the private medical something initiative, PSAN, Private Sector Alliance, talking about primary health care and how they're going to, it's not like privatize primary health care, but they're going to invest in primary health care. Because over the years, we have seen that it's too much for government to do, which is the public sector. So investments have to come in, so it's not something I can answer straightforward, but this is all I can say about it.
Yeah, thank you very much. That's very helpful. We'll just take the few questions left on the chat. And from Femi Ibrahim, the question is, what are the lessons you learned while being involved in making a change in eye health and glaucoma policy in Nigeria?
I don't understand the question. Lessons learned. Well, working with people, I think that's the first thing. Engagement is always working with people, bringing everyone on board. I've already shared some of the lessons I feel I have learned. Like, sometimes you may not be on the same page with everyone, but with time, and once you all agree what your purpose is, then you can bring everyone on board. And so that is also a learning. And another learning is that, there's a huge problem and we have to find it. We have to find solutions. So, and it is not a one-man show, obviously. So it's a teamwork. It's a group of people. It's a group of stakeholders doing the work. So I think engaging people is one of the main lessons that I have learned, and wanting to do something and doing it right.
Great, thank you. Just two more questions, and then thank you for this lecture. This is from Paul Nwagala. I just wanted to add that our communication with patients during counseling should always be realistic and not create any false hope for the patient to answer. I think this is more of a comment, so that's fine. From Olulope Odubela, thank you very much for the lecture. How would you advise young ophthalmologists and registrars as regards setting career goals?
Yeah, so take opportunities. I think every opportunity that comes, you embrace it, and be out there, show yourself, because you have to offer yourself for opportunities to come, and then do the work. Be ready to do the work. Be ready to work hard. It's not going to be easy. I know now younger people, they have this technology, leveraging on technology and all that, but even that, remember the algorithms, the data, somebody must have collected them for them to make it easy in your palms, so it's all hard work. You have to embrace that, and you have to get up and go out and look for those opportunities, or embrace the opportunities that come your way. So I think if you're setting career goals, those are the things you do, and you have even more options these days. You have more options these days. But the thing is, as I always say, if you must fail early, so that you can go on to the next thing that you would like to do. And I'm not talking about failing exams. I don't believe in failing exams, but I'm talking about, if you must fail in a certain thing that is a selective process, then do fail early and go on to, perfect it. Let failing be a lesson.
All right, great. Then the final question, and I think we should be able to round up. There's been a few questions coming. This is from Dr. Adungunro. Thank you, Dr. Kyari, for sharing your personal experiences. How easy did you find it working with people in public sector?
Yeah, I know. So when I was referring to my colleagues in private sector, it was definitely her I was referring to. I mean, I have a very close association with her, and she wonders sometimes, how do you do it? Just, I think sometimes you get angry, just as I said, earlier. You get angry, they get angry, you get angry. But you have to balance your purpose. Again, it's always purpose that impinges it. What is your purpose and what do you want to achieve? And once that purpose is not, selfish, it's not about you. So you're able to go out and you're able to go out of your comfort zone, and that is how you link up with people of divergent ideas and thinking, but you want to see where you can streamline them. And sometimes you abandon ship, that ship, and go to another one. But you have to, that is how you work with people in the public sector. And yeah, sometimes the bureaucracy you have to try to bypass, and because there are other legal ways of doing things, getting support, and so that helps too. So
Thank
one
you very
day,
much.
Dr. Ogunro, one day I'll ask you, what is your personal experience in dealing with people in the private sector, especially patients? You have a loose stitch and then they follow you home.
And the final comment from Christopher Onunko: excellent presentation as always. You're always an inspiration. Thank you. I think on that note, I would like to say a very big thank you to Dr. Kyari for sharing our experience or giving us some of this insight. It's been quite insightful, I must say. Thank you so much. And we're happy to have you on board of KEFA, and we look forward to tapping into that knowledge as KEFA continues to unfold. Thank you so much, Dr. Kyari. Thank you so much, everybody. We've come to the end of the session today. As you know, the session holds on the first Saturday of every month. We will communicate soon who the next presenter will be. And all the past lectures are available on our YouTube channel. Just go on YouTube and search for Kunle Asanaye Foundation Academy. Thank you again for joining us, and we look forward to having everybody on the next time. Thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you.